Okay, welcome to our next session on the behavior of gases. This one's going to deal exclusively with pressure. Okay, we talked about the definition of pressure in the last one, but on this one we're going to talk about standard temperature and pressure, and then the different measurements, the different units we can use for pressure. So back in first semester, we introduced the idea of standard temperature and pressure. And standard temperature is 0 degrees Celsius or 273 degrees Kelvin, or Kelvin, we don't say degrees Kelvin. So 0 degrees Celsius or 273 Kelvin. And standard pressure is 1 atmosphere exactly, or 760 millimeters of mercury exactly, or 760 torrs exactly, or 101.3 kilopascals, which is the SI unit of pressure. The reason why these say exactly is because these are exact conversions, which means they have infinite significant figures. Okay, so they're not going to limit our significant figures. You'll see here in just a moment, this one actually has more numbers after it, but right here, the way we typically use it is 4 sig figs. Okay, so if you take a look at the periodic table again, we're really starting to use a lot of the stuff on the back side this semester. And you can see on the very last line are all your pressure conversions. So you've got 1 atmosphere, 760 millimeters of mercury, 760 torrs. You can see 101.325 kilopascals. And then in the last section I mentioned pounds per square inch as a potential unit, or inches of mercury. And in this class we really don't use those two, but those conversions are there for us. So this section, all I'm going to do is practice conversions between the 4 main units that we use: atmospheres, millimeters of mercury, torrs, and kilopascals. Okay, so let's start with our first problem. We've got 1,104 torrs, and we want to convert that into atmospheres. So torrs is on top. That means diagonal down we have to have the same units, and we're looking for atmospheres, so that's what we'll put on top. And if you look on here at our conversions, next to atmospheres it's a 1, and next to torrs is 760, so that's what we use. So 1,104 divided by 760, and you punch that through in your calculator and you get 1.45263 and some numbers. Okay, now these two measurements are exact, so that's not going to limit our sig figs. It's this one right here. The 1,104 torrs is 4 significant figures. So my answer, when I round it to 4 significant figures, is 1.453 ATM. Okay, so that's my answer for this conversion. So that's all we're going to do in this section, is practice different conversion problems. So if you want to pause and just check your answers if you feel comfortable with this, then that is fine. So here we go, 1,242 torrs. This time we're going to change it to kilopascals, kPa. Okay, well, there is 760 torrs and 101.3 kilopascals. Now remember, we multiply the numbers on the top, we hit divide for all the numbers on the bottom, and when you solve this, it's 165.5455, and you might have a few more numbers on your calculator, but if you look back at the problem, that's only going to be 4 significant figures, so that's 165.5. Torrs cancel out, and my units are kilopascals. Next problem. This time we want to convert kilopascals to atmospheres. So 147.2 kilopascals diagonal down has to be the same units, kPa. We're looking for atmospheres. Next to atmospheres, there's a 1. Next to kPa's, 101.3. Multiply the top, divide by the bottom, and this time I get a 1.453109. Both my starting number and the 101.3 kilopascals is only 4 significant figures, so my final answer is 1.453 atmospheres for the answer. Okay. 2 more. Okay, so the next one I've got 765.2 millimeters of mercury to atmosphere. So millimeters of Hg, Hg for mercury, and then atmospheres, ATM. Well, atmospheres is always a 1. Millimeters of mercury, 760. We divide by the numbers on the bottom. Okay, so that's how you punch it into your calculator, and you get 1.00684 and some additional numbers. But when we go to look at our significant figures, remember these two actually these 3 were all exact, so they will not limit our significant figures. It's this right here with 4 sig figs for my answer, so my answer becomes 1.007 ATM for atmospheres. Okay. One last problem. We're going to take millimeters of mercury to kPa's. So I've got 692 millimeters of mercury, Hg for mercury. So millimeters of mercury, diagonal down to cancel out. kPa on top. So right here, 101.3 for the kPa. Millimeters of mercury, 760. So remember, we multiply the numbers on the top. We hit divide for all the numbers on the bottom. And you punch this through your calculator and you get 92.2363. And this right here is only 3 significant figures, so I'm going to round my answer to 3 significant figures, and this becomes 92.2 kPa for the answer. Okay? So that's all there is to the conversions. They're just like how we converted calories and joules in the last chapter. Okay, very simple. You just want the units to cancel out. So when you go back to unit organizer, make sure you set up whatever standard temperature and pressure is, okay, in the different units. Those are all standard pressures. 1 atmosphere is standard pressure, 760 millimeters of mercury standard pressure, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then your standard temperatures, the only ones we care about are 0 degrees Celsius, and when you convert Celsius to Kelvin, it becomes 273 Kelvin.